Right, so I've got another video for you all today. I'm going to talk today about why I believe that barefoot training is best. But one thing you have to remember before I go into it is that too many people are like on one side of the fence or the other. I believe that bare feet training can really help your progression, your proprioceptive system, your balance, as well as your posture as well, which we'll go into later on. But you get people that are either one side or the other. You get everyone that's like, oh, full stability shoes are the way to go. And then you get the other side where it's bare feet. I'm kind of in the middle. I do have Olympic lifting shoes. I love squatting in them. It means I can hit silly weights that I wouldn't think about without them. I do use belts sometimes, but I know what I'm working on each day, and I make sure that I don't lose core strength through using the belt. It's only on occasion, only on the right occasion I use it. So I just want to get that out of the way, because you always get the trolls that are either one side or the other. Bare feet training is the best. No, you need full stability because of this and that. Let's find a nice happy medium. So the first thing I'll talk about is foot strength. I used to be one that believed I used to wear orthotics in my shoes because I had fallen arches. And what happens is you feel loads better. Anyone that uses orthotics because their arches are falling, if they've been prescribed by a chiropractor or any kind of doctor, they help. Your feet stop hurting. If maybe you have ankle pain. I was aggravating an old ankle injury, so I used orthotics and it stops hurting. The problem is you're masking the problem rather than fixing it. Your foot doesn't get any stronger. It's relying on this outside source to not hurt, to cause you stability. See, when you take the shoes away, the arches then have to get stronger. Now, the problem's always going to be there a little bit, which is why you sometimes maybe go barefoot, and then if it hurts, then maybe go back to your orthotics for a bit and keep mixing it up. But if you constantly use them orthotics, they never get any stronger. The arches, the fascia on the bottom of the foot never gets any tighter. So let's try and strengthen that up. I'm kind of these on at the moment, these Converse that they do. They're not quite like the high tops. High tops kind of tend to have that really flat base. These do have a little arch support and they're really cushy. I really like them. But, I do occasionally train in them. But I do try and use bare feet when possible. The one thing you have to remember, if that bottom of the chain is weak, that foot is the first contact with the ground. So if you go barefoot straight away and the marches aren't strong, and the feet start tilting in, you start getting kind of inversion of the feet. Some people call it pronation. I prefer inversion. Same thing. And then what happens is, you can't really see it here, but feet go in, push the knees in. The adductors tighten up, and watch what happens. The adductors tighten up. The adductors are actually part of your posterior chain, so as they get activated, try it. As you bring the knees in, your pelvis starts to tilt forward because the adductors actually help in anterior tilt of the pelvis. So this comes in. So say you're squatting on the way up, you hit the bottom, your knees come in because of the lack of arch. Knees come in, adductors tighten up, pelvis tilts. You've got a bad back. And then you go to the doctor and you say, "Doctor, I've got a bad back." And he goes, "Yeah, your back sucks." But the problem is your foot. See the issue here? This is where most I'm not going to say that, I don't want to slag anyone off, but sometimes people can be too narrow-minded. Your neck hurts, but it's your foot that's out. Your knee hurts, you've wrecked the ligament in your knee, the surgeon cuts your knee open, replaces the ligament, the problem was your foot. So you've got a new ligament, that's great. Once you start walking about again, you're just going to wear the new one out. You see, so we need to get that arch stronger, which is why I like bare feet. No arch support, not relying on anything, you're making it stronger. But like I say, if you have them fallen arches and you're letting the knees go in, then you can have issues. Does that make sense? So which is why I'm not one side of the fence or the other. Use bare feet to strengthen it, but that strengthening process takes a while. So if you every now and again your arches kind of hurt, put your orthotics back in, and make that transition. In an ideal world, your feet should be strong enough, and you should always wear bare feet. Wear bare feet. You can get the bare feet shoes, by the way. I mean the Vibrams with 5 fingers. I don't like them. I like what's called Vivos, just because they don't have the little. Your toes don't go into individual bits. People don't look at you in the supermarket like you're some kind of hippie. So that's the first point, foot strength, which obviously can cause, as I've explained, cause problems higher up in the chain. Second thing is your proprioception, your balance. A lot of us don't have very good balance these days because we have a big stable base. These aren't too bad, to be fair. They still offer more support than my bare feet shoes, but not as much as like the big running shoes you get. You know, the big heeled base, and they're big and they're nice and stable and hit the floor and they're planted. Like an Olympic lifting shoe, planted, nothing moves. That's great while you're wearing them. As soon as you're not wearing them, you don't have that balance anymore. You're relying on something else for your balance, and what's called your proprioception. I'll go through that later. The shoe is doing the balancing for you. Now, when you take that shoe off, I can guarantee if you stand on one leg and close your eyes and you go a bit all over the place with a shoe on, now do the same thing without a shoe, guarantee you'll be less stable without a shoe. It seems obvious, but let's build up that stability, that balance, and that proprioception. Proprioception is basically, it's a long word that just means feedback to your nervous system regarding muscle length and tension. So as you're kind of reacting with the ground, you start shaking. So that's my foot, and it starts kind of reacting to the floor. That's your proprioceptive system trying to get a figure of where everything kind of is, if that makes sense. Another way to describe it, if you close your eyes and put your hand out there, I still know my hand's there because there's feedback coming back telling me my hand is there. If I move it behind my back, I can't see it behind, well, anyway, but I can't see it moving, but I know where it is every time I move it. That's my proprioceptive system. So it's not the same as balance, but you can see how it works in relation to it. So foot strength, and strengthening the whole kinetic chain. And number 2 is proprioception and balance. It's going to really try and fight that. It's really going to help with your balance to build it up. It makes me laugh when I see people on like Bosu balls. We have one in here, but I don't think there's one in this room. You get people standing on Bosu balls with big padded shoes on. That's like cancelling it out. It doesn't, well, not really, but it kind of doesn't make sense to me. Why don't you work on balance on the floor with no shoes on, then go to the Bosu? Take a bottle in your hand. Some of the best balance exercises are simplest. Take a bottle, one leg, reach as far forward as you can, place on the floor, put your feet together so they're exactly the same. Now try and pick it up with the other side. If you can't reach it, then that means you have an imbalance there and one leg is a lot more balanced than the other. That makes sense. So there's them. The last one is running. Now, running bare feet is a completely different. I could do a whole other video on it. But the problem is because we made these big shoes with big heels on, we land on our heels now when we run. And runners, I think it's like 80% of runners get injured because they're putting too much force on that heel. Naturally, I mean, there's a lot more to it. And like I say, I could do a whole other video on it, but you should land on that forefoot and just kind of tap the heel. We use our own spring system. Our feet are springs. They literally, if I go back so you can see it more. So you literally land on the forefoot, they're literally springs. Try and jump on your heel. Things don't kind of work so well. So why, and seeing as running is jumping in a straight line, there's no point jumping on your heels, so why would you run on them? The only reason we do it is because we have these big padded shoes. Usually you take someone's shoes away, you get them to run on a treadmill, the running technique picks up because it hurts to land on your heel. So within a couple of minutes of running maybe, with no shoes on, the technique gets better. It might not be perfect, but it's a lot better than it was 2 minutes ago. I don't even have to teach running technique barely anymore. I just take someone's shoes off and go, just run, and then let's see. So that's why I train mainly in bare feet. Like I say, I'm not completely like we should be barefoot all the time, because then you get a lot of that fallen arch problems higher up the kinetic chain. There should be that. You should train in bare. You should know what you're doing each day. If I'm going for a maximal strength day, I might stick my Olympic lifting shoes on, put a big bar on my back, see how much strap my belt on, strap my wrists up, strap my knees up, and just see how heavy I can go. but I don't forget about them, that stability aspect. Other days I might go one-legged, go like a Bulgarian split squat, go barefoot, sub-maximal load, so I go a lot less weight, and I'll work on my stability. So you should definitely know what day is dedicated to what training system. So I've rambled on a bit, as I usually kind of do these days. So I'll leave you with that. That's why I kind of love kind of barefoot shoes, barefoot training.